Hello everyone, it is I, Big King Badger, looking at some of my favourite games on a console. This console that we're going to be looking at today is the GameCube. Now, first up we have Animal Crossing. Now, if you're not familiar with Animal Crossing, it is a game that originally in Japan came out on the N64, but never came out in other countries. It was then ported to the GameCube and brought out everywhere else in the world, such as America and Europe. Now, Animal Crossing itself, if you're not familiar with the gameplay, you play as a human-style character who comes to a town which is populated by animals. It's a very chilled out, very cool game where you essentially have to explore the town, speak to the inhabitants, help them out with their tasks. You can do all different sorts of things such as digging for fossils, buying and selling fruit, and also it's connected to the Game Boy Advance as well, and you can do a lot of other things with that. So the game uses the GameCube's internal clock to change different things such as the seasons, what you would do, what would happen in the game as well. Really cool. The game itself, being on the GameCube, was limited to a couple of different things. I mean, you could use your memory card and go visit other people's towns who might have different items or different fruit that you couldn't have. So the game was all about going and exploring and meeting other people. An amazing game, but really has come into its own for me on things such as the 3DS, where it is more portable and it's a lot easier to go to other people's towns. And with the rise of the internet, that's also the case as well. Really cool. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Now, the next one I have, I know I may have spoken about this one before, would be Chibi Robo. Essentially, a game where you are a little robot who has to clean up a family's house. The strange thing with this one is, again, it uses real-time based on the GameCube's internal clock, and you have to use your trusty toothbrush to scrub stains and things like that. But you can also explore, so each one of the rooms of the house is a really giant, massive level, simply because you're a tiny little robot. The game is pretty funky as well as you develop and watch the story of what goes on with this family, based from the point of view of you, the little robot, who is there to clean the house. There's also another really funky element to it as well, where you have to continually charge up, and being a little robot who needs to charge up, you also have to have your trusty plug, which you need to plug yourself into the outlets of the house. Now, you may not think that a game essentially based around cleaning may be, you know, it sounds pretty boring, but actually it works out pretty funky and it's pretty cool. I would check it out. You get happiness points based on how you clean things and what you do in the game. So pretty funky, pretty random, well worth your time. I would always say pick up Chibi Robo and have a go. There are other Chibi Robo games which are available on things such as the DS. Not really worth it. I would say stick to the GameCube one. The next up I have on my list, as a massive Metal Gear fan, is Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes. Now, this is a remake of the original PS1 game, but using certain mechanics from some of the later games like Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, such as the first-person mode, the ability to hang out in the game and climb over things and dangle. Now, that may not sound, you know, pretty spectacular, but the game itself, an amazing, spectacular, stealth-based action game, but the thing is, with those elements that it adds from the game, because it pretty much remakes the original PS1 games, but with those mechanics. The tricky thing is that those mechanics can make the game super-duper easy, and not, I wouldn't say break the game, but certain things are a lot easier in the game from that. All the original voice actors come back to the game as well, so all the classic voice actors that you've heard in the game are back. Now, for me, it's an absolutely stunning game, and I'd love to see it come out on something like the Switch in a HD version. Now, the reason why I would only say the Switch is simply because the game itself has Nintendo mascots in there, and a lot of Easter eggs based on Yoshi and Mario and things like that. So maybe it could come out on other formats, who knows? But for now, just on the GameCube, the remake of the original Metal Gear Solid is a phenomenal game. I would say pick it up, check it out. as a Metal Gear fan, it is phenomenal, and where the series really starts to come into its own, as there are other Metal Gear games before this, but Metal Gear Solid is where the series really hits it off. The older games did originally come out on things such as the NES, but also on the older computers that came out as well. Now, the next game we have is Paper Mario. Now, this game is absolutely the most hilarious RPG you will ever play. Now, the thing is, with Paper Mario, it is an RPG, but it is absolutely, as I say, hilarious. It's got some classic one-liners in there. It's very funky, and it pretty much knows that it's a video game. The combat, which all RPGs really live or die on, is turn-based combat where you, Mario, and another character will take it in turns to fight, attack, and defend. Now, what Paper Mario does and stands out for is the fact that when you attack, you can use button presses to influence and strengthen your attacks, or if an enemy is attacking you, defend and sometimes dodge completely an attack. The game itself is, like I say, hilarious, an absolutely amazing, epic RPG. And also, the pretty cool and funky thing with this is, as it's Paper Mario rather than classic traditional Mario, you have different moves, so you can, turn yourself sideways and be paper thin and walk through little cracks and things like that. So, well worth it. There are other Paper Mario games, such as on the N64, and there's Super Paper Mario on the Wii. Now, the reason why I would say stick to Paper Mario on N64, or better yet, this one, is simply because they're really funny, really hilarious RPGs, whereas Super Paper Mario is more of a unique, strange platforming type game. Now, I'm not saying it's particularly really bad, but it's not quite as funky or as strange and as hilarious as Paper Mario is for the GameCube. Last, but by no means least for myself, I've picked an absolute funky gem. Now, this is an absolute stone cold classic, and it is Legend of Zelda: The Four Swords. This is essentially a multiplayer Zelda game. Now, that may not sound particularly funky. It may sound like Zelda should be a single player game, and I totally understand where you're coming from, but for me, the reason why this game is absolutely phenomenal is because you have the ability, and it's mainly for use with the Game Boy Advance. Now, you link your Game Boy Advance to the TV. Now, you have the big main overworld on your TV, and then when you, say, fall down a hole in the game, you then appear on the screen of your Game Boy Advance. And that's how you can get around and have up to 4 different links in the game, all doing unique things and working together. It is a phenomenal cooperative game, and it is a phenomenal Zelda game. I understand that Zelda may not be your perfect idea of a multiplayer co-op game, but it really is. You really need to work together as a team and work to do the puzzles and explore the classic Zelda world. So yeah, it is that classic Zelda game. Yes, you can play it by yourself, but the game really comes into its own when you're playing it in multiplayer with 4 players. Yes, that might mean that you've got your TV, you've got your GameCube, and then you've got 4 Game Boy Advances all hooked up and all connected, but trust me, having played the game in that mode, it is absolutely phenomenal and is one of the best, most unique Zelda and best and unique multiplayer games that you will play. I honestly believe that, and that's why I've picked this version over, say, something like The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, which is one of my other all-time favourite Zelda games, but this has such a unique Zelda taste to it. So I would really recommend you pick this game up. But, as always, let me know what you think. What would be your top 5 games for the GameCube? Or if you don't agree with mine and think Wind Waker should have been there, or I should have picked, the racing game from the Kirby series, which is the only Kirby game to come out on the GameCube, who knows? You tell me what you think and let me know. Please give me your recommendations on your top 5 GameCube games, or even your worst GameCube games. It's been a pleasure for me to share this with you today. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you've enjoyed watching as much as I have, letting you know about my favourite Zelda, Chibi Robo, and all the other magical games that I've shared for you today with the GameCube. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. I've been Big King Badger. Get gaming, guys. Enjoy.